He's out there. The demon bear that murdered my parents. Watching. Waiting. For me. Hey guys, Professor Bill, Comic Book University, and I'm going to be doing a spotlight on a story for the New Mutants, issues number 18, 19, and 20. All you old school fans, you know right away this is the Demon Bear storyline. This is what the movie, the New Mutants movie, is supposed to be based on. Currently, we are like right on the cusp of 2018. So far, that movie's still going to be released, and I believe that it will be. I don't see any reason why it wouldn't be. So, guys, this comic book was actually done in August, September, and October of 1984. Now, we know this is Chris Claremont. He's the guy who did all the writing, very famous for all the X-Men stories and all that good stuff up until around 92, right in the beginning of 93. Bill Sienkiewicz is on art. That's very specifically the pencils and the ink. On colors, we have Glynis Wein. She is, her maiden name is Glynis Oliver. No relation to Oliver Queen, I'm sure. But anyway, Glynis Wein, she was married to for a while and then divorced Len Wein, who died only a couple of months ago at the time of this video. And on letters, we have Tom Orzechowski, rounding everything up. So this is 3 issues that rounds out the Demon Bear saga. Yeah, it's only 3 issues, but this is more than a saga in and of itself. This is considered the pinnacle, not the pinnacle, wrong word. This is considered probably the greatest of the New Mutant stories, but make no mistake, there is already an extremely high bar before and after for this one to have lasted in history for so long. Like, this is just such a great story, and there were so many great stories that Chris Claremont had put out that the New Mutants alone held. There are a lot of, and I will get to this at the end of the story, there are a lot of crossover and, surprise, interludes and things like that, setting up for the stories in the future. Chris Claremont had a lot of stories to tell, and he was just bursting at the seams to give us hints at what's to come. This is also the first appearance of Warlock, but he doesn't actually have anything important whatsoever to add to this storyline, so he's only going to be mentioned again at the end. Anyway, so let's get to the story. So, the Demon Bear. What we have here is, I should also mention really quick, this came out at around the same time as West Coast Avengers issue number 1. That's volume 1, which is a 4-issue miniseries that launched before the Avengers West Coast storyline came out, which is technically considered volume 2 of West Coast Avengers. And the last Starfighter movie was actually being advertised at this time. And that comic book was scheduled to come out at around this time also. I believe there were only 3 issues of that. You can check all the letters section and everything like that for there. So basically, much like the opening of this starts with the opening that I gave for this video. I tried to do a nice little rendition. I hope it came out good. I think it did. And basically what we have is Danny Moonstar wakes up with this dream that she has every single night, this nightmare of the Demon Bear coming to get her. Now, she's mentioned this several times throughout the already short run, only 18 issues, but she's mentioned it several times already, the Demon Bear. So they were already planning on talking about this and making this into a storyline. I don't know if they expected it to be as big as it actually became, though. So she has this nightmare of the Demon Bear, and next thing you know, she's in the training room, control rooms with Lockheed the Dragon. Yeah, Shadowcat didn't have exclusive access. Kitty Pryde didn't have exclusive access to this dragon, this other dimensional dragon. And Magik, Ilyana Rasputin, is in there. She had joined the team not too terribly long ago. And she didn't have a full exploration of her powers yet. She knew she had her sword, and the soul sword, and she knew she had the stepping discs at the time, and what little magic that she knew also. But we're going to see a couple new powers showing up here in this issue. So basically, they're talking to each other about how this trial was set up for the boys. Well, more specifically for the strong people on the team. So Magma is there, Amara Aguilera. And also Sunspot, Robert DaCosta, and Sam Gunther, Cannonball. Those 3 are there. It's not only for the strong people, because technically Rain Sinclair Wolfsbane is also pretty strong, but she is also extremely young. She's like, what, 13? When this takes place, her mutant powers only just manifested technically 19 issues ago. So... And she's an interesting character. By the way, guys, go and check out my Spotlight on Story for all of these characters that I'm talking about, almost, down below. Depending on when you see. If you see this the day it came out, Magik won't have been out yet, but Danny Moonstar, Mirage, was just put out today. So Magik I will get to as time progresses. I will have Spotlights on Stories for her stories also, although this is a good candidate for one of her stronger stories. Anyway, so these guys are all fighting in the training room. They're just doing the danger room. They're doing their thing. They're trying to learn how to work around their powers and to work as a team. Professor X is away. He's actually in Massachusetts at the time. There's a Hellfire Club school academy that had started up there for young mutants also. We'll see more about the Hellions later. Anyway, so they're talking, and it's funny because Illyana had expressed pretty much everything she could about what happened to her while she was in limbo. And I will get to those stories later. You will see those Spotlights on Stories later. I promise you that. And she's basically telling everything she can to Mirage. You know what I'm saying? She's being very forthcoming. The problem is she's having a hard time trusting Danny Moonstar at this point because, well, quite frankly, Moonstar isn't sharing herself. She's not sharing her own stories. So Magik's not stupid. She even though she's young, older than she looks, but regardless, she knows. She's very wise, especially for her age. She knows that she's hiding stuff, that Danny Moonstar is hiding stuff. So she's not cool with that. And it's hard to trust someone when you give a bunch and the other person just withholds everything. So that's addressed here. Moving on. The story's interesting. Later on, you get to see that Moonstar wants to do her own little private danger room session, and what's her name? Magik is actually going to run the program for her. And all she really wants to do is she wants to fight a bear. That's cool. She's got this little ambush thing. It's in the snow. There was a scene earlier where it says it's going to snow pretty soon. You should get indoors. Well, it does snow, and it's actually a terrible blizzard. Like, it's really bad. The roads eventually get closed and everything. So what happens is she's sitting there fighting this bear, and after a couple of shots, she's only got 2 arrows or 2 arrows left. It's not really explained. Doesn't need to be. Down to her final arrow, and she's finally able to kill this bear. But she's been running this program over and over. Illyana comes in. She's like, what are you doing? She's like, I could, with a flip of the switch, this program starts anew. That bear is fresh. The problem is, can't say the same for you, huh? And Danny's just sitting there huffing and puffing saying, well, you know what? I got to be ready. Got to be ready to do things. And I can't always rely on my psychic abilities. That's the reason why I couldn't be in the danger room earlier, because robots aren't affected by my psychic abilities. So, there's that. So she says, okay, yeah, I get it. But just out of curiosity, why bears? Why do you want to fight a bear? So Danny lies again, and she's, through a mission. And she says, hey, everybody's got to start somewhere. So as the story progresses, we see that she really is haunted by these things. She's still having these nightmares and whatnot, and it's rather terrifying for her. So she gets to this point where she says, I'm done. She's staring out the window. I'm going outside, and I'm going to freaking take it. This bear is here. Okay, this bear is here. I'm tired of hiding from it. Let me go outside and face my fears. Because the nightmares keep on getting worse and worse and worse. She doesn't realize that the bear has actually been traveling. Now, I'm going to get to all of that at the end of this, exactly what this bear is. But for now, she's not sure what it is. She thinks it's just a personal nightmare. Maybe it's something that she actually made real. You got to remember her powers also. And again, what do you call it? Danny Moonstar or just Mirage, explained in a minute. Either one will work. Description, it's in the description box, and you can actually see what her powers are. So she's thinking that she actually manifested this demon bear on her own, and this is the reason why her parents are dead, the reason why, one of the main reasons why her grandfather is dead, that she made all these things come visual, that she made them manifest, and then wound up killing her parents, and essentially her father also. Her grandfather. So anyway, she decides, you know what? That's it. She puts on some war paint. She grabs her bow and her arrows. She goes outside in the snow. Now, her uniform is going to protect her, but she's got a little bit of an issue with her face being exposed. So she goes outside. She's like, I'm gonna freaking handle this right now. She goes outside and she calls out for this bear, and she's surprised because it is not a normal sized bear. This thing is about as tall as a 3-story building. This thing is huge. It's like a little high rise, you know? So she's just like, okay, no problem. So let me try and put it off balance. I'm going to use my psychic powers on it really quick. She does. And she wants to see, she instinctively probes its mind for its greatest fear. And what does she see? She sees herself. She is this bear's greatest fear, but she doesn't understand it, and she doesn't have time to think because this freaking bear is lightning fast. Forget about its size. For its size, it would be fast, but like even if it were miniature, like no, this thing is quick. It would catch Quicksilver as it's running. Like nobody's moving as fast as this bear, and you'll see more on that later. So she takes a shot at the bear, hits it like right in the side of the neck, like carotid artery. Perfect shot. It's a killing shot. Only ticks the bear off. More happens. She starts going after the bear, goes and knocks the bow out of her hand, picks her up, and she shoves one of her arrows into the bear's mouth. He chomps down. Bear, gets the arrow through its snout. It's a little bit hurt. She jumps back. It goes and roars. She fires an arrow right into its mouth. The bear drops. She drops. She kills the bear. The problem is she thinks she kills the bear. Bear was, healing, and not so easy to kill it with mundane weapons, right? Now, eventually she will develop the ability to fire psychic arrows, and I'm certain that would have worked against this bear also. In the meantime, the explanation for what can actually hurt the bear is forthcoming just a little bit later. So she walks up to the bear, footsteps in the snow and all that stuff. Bear wakes up. Bear mauls her. Bear actually mauls her, and she's left there for dead. So her friends eventually realize what's going on. Rain, she got that little psychic rapport with Moonstar. It's mostly just supposed to be in her wolf form, but I guess she dreams like a wolf also. So she gets the idea and wakes everybody up. Oh my God, something happened to Danny. So they run outside and they see Danielle. She's lying there in the snow, and she's been eviscerated.
We got a bad one here. We need a triage team on the double. Who is she? Daniel Moonstar, a student over at Xavier's school. Typer and cross-match will need 6 units, whole blood to start, and probably a whole lot more. Better put out a call for donors as well. I'm barely getting a pulse. Visible compound fractures, femur and fibula, multiple lacerations, torso and extremities, possible abdominal trauma, crushed and sublux vertebrae, skull trauma, possible concussion, probable flail chest. It's a miracle she lasted this long. She's one tough kid. What's this on her face? War paint? Prep the OR. Stat. I want her in surgery as fast as possible. What about x-rays? No time! Let's roll, people. I hope none of you have any plans for this evening. We're going to be here for quite a while.
So I just read all that stuff out loud for you guys. I want you to just get the general impression that they were actually terrified. Like the doctors or the surgeons are looking at her like, holy crap, she's not going to make it. She gets brought in. The doctors, they're cutting off her clothes, and the one doctor just throws it behind him. It actually splats up against the wall. It's so coated, it's so caked with her blood that it looks like a scene out of Dexter. It's splats against the wall. There's a big blood splatter stain all over the white wall now. Like Danny is just jacked up. She's out pretty much for the rest of this. At least her body is. So Sam sits there, like all the New Mutants are laying there. They're like, just, oh my God, what's going on? They're waiting for some kind of a word. And this one officer comes up, Officer Tom Corsi. He's actually a really cool guy. But, he's like, what's going on here? What's up? And they're trying to ask him for answers. Robert DaCosta actually freaks out at one point. So the good old boy from Kentucky, Sam Guthrie, Cannonball, he is able to put all this stuff together. He eventually becomes one of the co-leaders with Danny in the future. But for right now, he starts piecing everything together. He's like, okay, so let me get this straight now. Danny's been talking about the spirit bear since like issue 3. Okay, a little meta, but you know what I'm saying. Talks about, her parents were killed by a bear. In the danger room, Ileana's been saying that all she's been doing is fighting bears, as of late. It's like, hold on, wait a second. Something up with bears. And all of a sudden now she's attacked by this big thing that just mauled her. Sounds like a bear. Holy crap, it's Danny. So he even comes to the same conclusion that Danny came to, that she's the cause of all of this, that Danny is her own spirit bear, her own demon bear. So he's a little bit like, okay, freaky, but we've got to somehow protect her. Okay, we somehow got to protect her because this bear could come in anywhere. It's going to come for her. That's what it's going to do. So it's coming specifically for her. The rest of us are only in danger because we're in proximity to her, because we're going to get in her way. We have to make sure that we can stop this bear from getting to Danny and whoever's around her. So that's their plan at this point. He orders Rain. He says, listen, check this out, Wolfsbane. I want you to turn into your transitional form, and I want you to try and use that animal empathy thing, that rapport that you have with her, okay? She actually has the power to communicate with higher forms of beasts, like you when you're in your transitional form. So I want you to transform, and I want you to see if you can have a conversation with her. So she does, and she does. It's funny because as messed up as she is, and you heard me, describe everything that was wrong with Danny. Danny should not by rights even be alive, but she is one willful son of a gun. So, she's still talking to her. She's like, yeah, I don't really feel anything. I'm kind of in a different plane of existence right now, you know what I'm saying? But yeah, it's cool. She's making jokes and whatnot, but she's like, yeah, it's the freaking demon bear. It was coming for me, all these different things. So she's like, oh my God, this thing's in pain. It was coming for her and, all these different things, but I had to cut off communication because it turns out that she was starting to wake up. Her conscience was starting to come to the surface, and the doctors were rushing to keep her sedated because if she wakes up at that point, the pain alone would cause her to contract and she would wind up dying. So, yeah. So she broke off everything. So later on, they're just, all sitting there together. It's actually funny because Cannonball, when he tells Rain to do this, he tells Sunspot, listen, I need you to transform yourself also and hold that door. Make sure nobody gets in. It's like, while Sunspot is holding this door, none shall enter. He's like, okay, listen, tough guy. we need you to, I'm not so worried about the Hulk. I'm more worried about the nurse coming in. that was a nice bit of levity that really made it, a little bit more palatable, all this, because this was really serious, especially most of us comic book fans at the time, we're all kids, reading this stuff. So it's like, this was really heavy. So a little lightheartedness, it helped. So, Corsi comes in later on, and he sees Rain in her wolf form. She's trying to communicate with her a little bit, just trying to listen, to her thoughts. Not actually trying to do the communication, just trying to get a one-way, trying to listen to, Danny's thoughts, see how things are going. Officer Tom Corsi comes walking. It's like, holy crap, it's a freaking werewolf. So he pulls out his gun. Stop! What do you call it? Rain runs away, goes in the other room. She transforms really quick. Corsi comes walking. It's like, oh my God, Rain. What the frick? Was that you? It's like, oh man, I'm working all these late hours. I'm really tired. I haven't had any sleep. I could have shot you. You got to be careful. Thank God I didn't shoot you. So yeah, he's genuinely a little bit freaked out right now. And it's funny because this picture, you really get, you actually get to see her next to a full-grown adult, and you get to see just how small she is, just how young she really is. So a lot of times people are like, oh, I can't stand, Wolfsbane because she's so stupid. No, she's not stupid. She's a kid. She's genuinely a little kid. And she's a little kid, mind you, who is a self-hater because she's extremely religious, but the religious part of her, just like the religious zealots back in Scotland and Kinross, were trying to burn her at the stake. They're trying to exorcise her and then burn her at the stake because she's a werewolf. She's a demon. She's a creature of the night, So she's self-hating on herself big time. So she's a very complex character, and I think that she's written very well, even when it's other than Claremont who's writing her. I think she's written pretty well. Nonetheless, Corsi calms down enough, and he decides to try and calm himself down a little bit more by going and talking to the hot nurse. She is stuck working on these night shifts all the time, but Tom's got seniority. He gets to make his own schedule, so he chooses to be here late because he wants to, try and talk it up with her. So that's cool. I like that. There's, this goes pretty much nowhere. You know what I'm saying? But you get to see that, there's some side stuff going on. Regular people matter in this. And I love that about the comics back in the day. I love that about Claremont's writing. So he's trying to talk it up with her. All of a sudden, the bear comes up, sneaks up in the hallway, and he comes right after them. So they're taken care of. You'll find out more about what happened to them a little bit later. In the meantime, Magik, Ileana Rasputin, she's walking around and she's trying to cast these wards. She's got these, her own personal magic, and she's trying to cast protective wards around the OR, around the operating room herself, because she doesn't want the demon bear to be able to sneak in. And she's also directly tied to this magical ward. So she'll actually feel a lot of the pain when the ward is attacked. It's basically a force field protecting against magic very specifically, possibly psychic energy also. We've seen something to that effect also. Case in point, Professor X can't penetrate, as strong as he is, he can't penetrate her magics in order to read her mind and see her past. So it's at this point that the demon bear actually comes in, and she didn't get these wards up wasting any time, because the demon bear shows up. And it's her and Sunspot who are there, and they both got to try and protect against this thing. Now, Sunspot tries to attack, but he is like completely useless against this thing for the most part. Like, he doesn't stand a chance. But Magik, on the meanwhile, she's going to try and stop this thing, but as she's trying to cast her spells and whatnot, the demon bear, again, he's quick. It is quick, and actually slices her her arm. Probably would have taken her arm off, but when it rips off the very thick New Mutants outfit, the uniform that she's wearing, exposes some kind of a robotic-looking under armor that she's wearing under her costume. And she's just as surprised as everybody else. This is a new power. Now, we come to realize later on that as she's casting her spells, more and more of her natural magical armor starts to go around her. And that's good and bad. But, the dark child starts to awaken. Anyway, when I get to Magik Explained in a minute, you'll find out more about that. In the meantime, so she's discovering this power about her from the very beginning. And a lot of people, like I said, are starting to discover their new powers. For instance, the transitional form that Rain used to have, the werewolf form that, the in-between form between full wolf and full human that Wolfsbane used to have, that's shifted drastically, and it's the much better looking form that you see in this comic. That's this comic that actually happens. Before that, it's a really freaky, weird looking, I don't even know what the heck that is. It looks like something out of a freaky nightmare. Anyway, so yeah, these wards wind up holding just enough, and all of a sudden Magik is able to get a grasp on herself, and she uses her sword, and she's able to fend away the monster. It actually winds up disappearing. It teleports. It gets hit by the sword, and then it uses its teleportational ability. Yeah, they didn't know they had that. And it goes someplace else. What it does is it winds up going downstairs into the generator room. And Magik is able to figure out this is what's going to happen. And she's there with a couple of the others also now. Sunspot's kind of trying to, get his stuff back together. But, Rain Sinclair is down there. Magma, I think, is down there. Anyways, she goes down and she's trying to put up the wards down there. She's like, these wards aren't going to be as effective as the first wards because I gave pretty much almost everything I've got the first time. But I'm just afraid, if these generators go down, then the machines that are being used to keep Danny alive, yeah, not so good. So she's totally predicting all this stuff, and it's working because the bear, shows up there also, and they got to fight it off, and everybody's doing what they can. Anyway, the bear winds up showing up someplace upstairs again, and they're just like, the bear just keeps on teleporting all over the place, and they can't seem to get a grasp. At one point, it's like, okay, you know what? Enough of this game. We've got to try and take this thing out. And it's funny because during all of this, she's being called a witch by her teammates. And it's like, dude, seriously? I know everybody likes to crack jokes on each other, but that's actually really mean because she is a witch. Calling Wolfsbane Carrot's Top is one thing, but I mean, come on, geez, especially since Wolfsbane, she knows that is definitely a derogatory term for her. So what happens is they're all freaked out, and then the bear actually winds up teleporting all of them. Yeah, instead of teleporting just itself, it teleports all of them back to what's called the Badlands. This is its own world. It's kind of like before the settlers, the colonizers showed up in the New World in what's now called America, when it's just natives out there. The bear, this is basically its homeland, and it summons them there. So we also get to see this map, and it's just this grid, that's supposed to portray the entire world, and there's certain shadowy parts on there. We're not sure exactly what that is. We come to realize that every so often a panel will show up with that grid on it, and there'll be more and more patches of black covering this grid. And you suddenly get the impression that the more that this gets dark, the more powerful that the bear becomes. Pretty soon the entire land will be overcome with shadows, and then these guys are screwed, and then it's going to come back. And the thing is that you got to remember, its primary goal is to go after Mirage. It is to go after Danny Moonstar. And every so often you will actually see it cut through. It'll cut a swath through the barriers of reality and try and get into that OR, because Magik is a little bit distracted at this point, at some point or another, and it's trying to get at Danny. Once Danny's dead, it figures it's won. Well, kind of, and we'll see more on that. Anyway, there's a huge fight. There's a ridiculously huge fight. And it actually takes, you get to see now what happened to Officer Corsi and his, soon-to-be girlfriend, I would imagine. They get transformed into Native American evil spirits, demonic spirits, and they start helping out the bear. Because when the bear cuts you with its claws, it's not actually trying to kill you. It's not trying to hurt your body. It's actually trying to go after your soul. It's trying to hurt your soul. Magik was Danny Moonstar was a special case. Anyway, so these things start attacking too. And Ileana's sword, as it turns out, is able to prevent them from being from remaining demons. It actually exorcises them in many ways. They're able to, we're free of the demonic spirits. It's not a permanent thing. These people, if they're like white people who get captured and get turned into these spirits, the spirit leaves, the demon spirit leaves, but their bodies remain Native Americans. I know it's the weirdest thing, and you figure it shouldn't mean anything, but you think about racism and try being a Native American. You know what I'm saying? Like you got almost no people left to go back home to. So it doesn't really get explored that much. And in some ways that's good, in some ways it's bad. But I'm going to get more into that in my thoughts on the comic later on in just a little while. Amara is actually trying to kill these things, these people who are turned into demons. She thinks that's the only way. It's either us or them. So it's a funny thing when she winds up getting turned into a demon a little bit later. So Magik goes up and she actually picks up her soul sword and stabs straight down into Magma. And Cannonball's like, oh my God, because Cannonball's trying to get with this girl. He's got the hots for, hormones are flying, all right? Flying faster than he can fly with his blast form, his blast legs. So he goes straight after Magik. He's infuriated. He picks her up and then throws her, as he's flying really fast to begin with. So she's sliding on her back. She'd have been destroyed, except she's been casting so much magic that her armor is almost completely covering her at this point. So yeah, she's fine. She's pretty much fine. She's hurt, but she's fine. Anyway, so Amara gets up and smacks him, calls him a barbarian. She's Nova Roman. So she screams at him. It's like, what's the matter with you? But I saw you. Shut up, you idiot. If you would have actually stopped and looked and used your eyes instead of your freaking heart, you'd have seen that she was saving me. She actually saved me. Yeah, by the way, you're welcome, Amara. So she becomes evil later on. Spoilers. Anyway, so since Sam is being a lovelorn little freaknik, Magik starts kind of taking over. She starts showing her own leadership potential. And she calls out to Rain, Rain, what happened? Hold on. Moonstar was just mentioned again. What exactly happened when you were talking to Moonstar? She's like, oh, well, this happened, and this happened, and this happened. And she's actually got a fight with her also. It's like, but you're a witch. Shut up and answer me. I'll freaking cut you down too. So she says, okay, what happened is, she says that that the demon bear is afraid of her. But the thing is that Moonstar realized before she actually got cut down that it was afraid of her only because Moonstar herself actually had the answer. She had the secret to take down the bear. The secret was all of them in teamwork. So go figure. All of this could have been avoided for the most part. It wasn't nearly as powerful at the time when she first confronted the bear. Because at the time it was only 3 stories tall. Now it's like a skyscraper size. So, they're all realizing, oh, wow, if only she would have learned how to work as a team in the very first place, this wouldn't have been an issue. Instead of going out there with a couple of, arrows in her bow, for crying out loud. Bring a shotgun, for crying out loud. Sam Guthrie ran outside with a rifle. He was smart enough to realize. Anyway, so they figure this out and they all start using their teamwork at one. Instead of attacking one at a time, they actually work as a team. They're able to stagger the bear enough, and then Magik comes up and actually cuts the bear in half with her soul sword. Yeah, it is really effective against Magik. So, and that means magical attacks, not her herself. Anyway, so the bear is dead. They actually are able to kill the bear, and they go up and they have the conversations. And what happens is the bear actually splits into 2 Native Americans, and it turns out it's actually Danny Moonstar's parents. Yeah, imagine that. So the explanation of the story, as best as they're going to actually give it to us, is as follows. Her parents were actually affected by this malevolent spirit. It came for them so that it could be just this extra little, coup de grace when it comes after Moonstar herself. All right. So Danny Moonstar was its ultimate target, but this malevolent spirit, and they don't explain the malevolent spirit, actually came to get their parents and take over their bodies so that they were going to be the one who is technically delivering the killing blow to Moonstar. And they had no control over it. Like, they could see it. They tried to resist. All the time they tried to resist, couldn't. Absolutely couldn't. It was just too powerful. Now, Professor X actually shows up, in their minds. Is like, hey, check it out. Relax. Relax. This is actually what's going on here, and explains a lot of these things. But then also when he's giving this explanation, he goes and says, listen, I could explain more. Danny could explain more, but we're not going to, because if we did, we're afraid that it might give rise to the thing coming back. So we're going to leave the explanation vague, and then we're good. And I actually liked that. At first I'm thinking, are you kidding? That's so cheap. And then I thought about it a second time, and a third, and then a 14th. And I'm like, you know what? I actually kind of dig that. Because why does everything have to be explained? We just had an incredible story. We don't necessarily need the puzzle to be solved for us, But it said, but we will never have to worry about this thing again. I guess because, so on and so forth. But then again, how many times has Professor X actually been right? Things that make you go, So anyway, what does happen later on, though, is that the doctor's like, yeah, Moonstar is paralyzed. Danny's paralyzed. She's never going to walk again. Done. 0% chance. Except Storm happens to be the leader of the Morlocks at this time. So she summons the Morlock healer. And he overtaxes the heck out of himself, but he doesn't show it because he's good and obedient. And the Wind Rider, Storm, is the supreme ruler. So just do what you got to do. And he is actually able to heal Danny Moonstar, and she's able to walk, and she's like, all right, righteous, and she's cool, and then she winds up becoming like just this absolutely incredible. She was already cool, but now she becomes this absolutely incredible force to be reckoned with, and all sorts of totally amazing things happen. And check out my Danny Moonstar or Mirage Explained in a Minute story. She was also called Psyche and all these other names, but that's the crux of it. I thought that the storyline was incredible. Again, there is already a very high bar for what was the best New Mutant storyline. And you may disagree and think that there's a different one. It's okay to be wrong. I'm joking. It's okay to have different opinions. Absolutely. But I thought this was just an absolutely amazing. And I mean, when you think about, just not too long before this, at the very beginning, the second big storyline these guys had besides their founding in Marvel Graphic Novel issue number 4, which I also did a spotlight on story for. You actually have the Shadow King coming back to go after Professor Xavier through Shan as Karma. And again, guys, there's just been so many very cool storylines out there, specifically for the New Mutants. I could just go on and on, but why? Anyway, I really loved that this story was expansive. It ended. They didn't necessarily revisit. I hope that they don't revisit it. I am very curious to see how the movie is able to portray this, and then I hope that it just stops. Don't keep telling this over and over again like the Phoenix story. No, just this was good. This was good exactly as it is. And so many firsts here, including so many crossovers. You had Binary showing up with the Starjammers. You had a time-traveling debacle in the very beginning. You have, again, the very first appearance. Issue number 18 is the very first appearance of Warlock, one of the most beloved characters in the Marvel Universe. So just so much happening here. And to me, it was great. It was great. Guys, that's it for me. I hope that you enjoyed the storyline. Go to your local comic book store and see if you can't get these 3 issues. They are going to be hard to get. They are going to be very expensive because the movie is out. It's going to be coming out. Everybody knows about the movie coming out in about a year. It is what it is. Worst case scenario, get it digitally. And to help out, I provided a link down below. Go ahead and check it out. See what you can do. Also, trade paperbacks. Trade paperbacks are a good idea. Again, local comic book store support. All right, guys, that's it for me. Professor Bill, Comic Book University. Class dismissed.